Hello everybody, Strangers103 here today with yet another replay analysis, the third one. We're looking at, I believe, Oops, I Screwed Up Again from NA server, was it? Except this is him on EU, if I understood everything correctly. Well, let's have a look. We're today in the Zuihou with a Langley support. The enemy has a Bogue and a Langley as a tier 4. Both teams get 2 tier 5 battleships. As you'd expect with the new matchmaking rules, this is a patch 0.9.11 replay. It's here on Solomon Island, spawning top left of the map, preparing our bombers for launch. It seems we're going to launch our torpedo bombers first. Usually not that bad of an idea, considering they are slower. However, on the Zuihou, the torpedo bombers are actually the same as the HIDIUs. So, well, let's see how this plays out. Let's talk about the Zuihou a little bit. 30 total aircraft. You have an option of 2 loadouts, 1-2-1 or 1-1-2. 1-2-1 having the superior alpha of 2 torpedo bomber squadrons and the utility to take down destroyers, speaking of which the enemy has a Minakaza and a Clemson. And however, 1-1-2 is a little bit more reliable in sniping carriers, especially these tiny little fuckwits called Bogues, which is bloody difficult to hit because they're so freaking small and they have a gazillion bloody anti-aircraft guns. Anyways, on the minimap we see 2 enemy fighter squadrons. We react to it, and it appears that that's 1 from each carrier at the moment, so ultimately for the first moment we just need to evade those or hope that they bunch up. A lot of lower tier carriers just attach their planes onto stuff, and here we see we're giving orders on the minimap, trying to kite our torpedo bombers away from the fighter. Personally, I would be kiting the fighter away from the torpedo bomber and trying to evade strafing, which we are. We're splitting up now, and it seems the fighter's not interested in coming in. Yes, it's going for our fighter, so we just need to run that, preferably towards nearby anti-aircraft. And once it's over the other Congo, because this one, 47,000 health, he's stock, we would be able to lock it. Anyways, the Königsberg's aircraft was the one that got shot down, I believe. Or something got shot down there, I think. So, which means that hopefully our fighters can get the panic lockdown on the enemy fighters, but still, I would not suggest throwing planes in to get them locked. However, it seems that the enemy's planes are getting murdered. We lose 1 plane, they lose the entire squadron, and we manage to pick up 3 of them. Now, going in against this Ivaki Alpha, let's see how we make this drop. Ivaki Alphas are pretty maneuverable, so let's try to get around it. Yeah, unfortunately, that's a little bit too much of a steep angle on it. And, okay, we're going for the cross drop, so let's stop this one here. When you go for a cross drop against an enemy ship, you can see your number 3 squadron is doing the backwards lockdown. That's perfectly fine. Now the 4th squadron, the one I've now selected, it needs to basically be, you want to have it here. The order should be a lot further up where my mouse cursor is. That way, once this 3rd squadron drops, you can immediately pull the 4th squadron, which is now up here, down. And as he's turning to, turning like this, you can pull it down and instantly make the counter drop. Otherwise, if you are, for example, too slow and this is a fast destroyer such as a Russian one, then simply he's just going to sail in a straight line, outrun this torpedo, and while this one's circling, well, he's just going to skid out from the torpedoes and keep turning away. Of course, this is an Ivaki Alpha. It does not do 45 freaking knots or even almost 50, so let's continue playing the replay. Now, we've simply left our fighter squadron to escort our Clemson, which, in my opinion, well, it's not a bad thing, but in my opinion, it's not really a good thing either, because the escort function isn't that great. Anyways, the Ivaki Alpha kind of realizes what's up and is trying to smokescreen up, but, well, it's not going to matter. We do manage to pick up the kill, and now you see what happened. Our fighter got locked by the enemy's float blade fighter. Luckily for us, it managed to kill it, because that fighter, we weren't giving it orders, was actually under panic. Now, we make a dive bomber drop on the Myogi. I mean, the damage it does isn't really that relevant. However, we managed to pick up fire number 3 and 4, which has triggered a damage control party, which means that if any of the enemy, well, any of the torpedoes that are being thrown in the water from the friendlies there manage to get a good set on them and cause a flooding, then that's probably going to stick for a while. Anyways, trying to land our fighter as well, in my opinion, a good move to make here due to the fact that we lost one plane. It means that our fighters are going to be full HP when they get up, to prepare to combat, for example, that of the Bogues. Now, the enemy Langley takes out one of our Wyomings, which can be pretty bad, because that's the fleet on the western side trying to push. And there's now Clemson coming down the middle, which means he'll probably spot us soon. Now, our ship is moving around, but, well, first of all, selecting our number one ship, we don't actually see in order, so our ship just seems to be circling around, potentially just doing the good old circle around in bot circles and do nothing. Which is certainly a fair thing to do to be able to, you know, reduce the risk of being sniped. Now, we don't actually find the perfect side drop on the Clemson as he's evading our friendly's torpedoes, and enemy fighters are now coming in. And we still have planes waiting to be launched. Now we're launching our fighters, and it seems that CT, or Oops, I Screwed Up Again, is focusing very heavily on the minimap, which is a very good thing to be doing in a carrier, because it allows you to spot everything, such as the positions of stuff. So you have that down very well, and there is pretty much nothing on me to comment for that. Only comment that I see right now is just learning to strike, and unfortunately we strafe into the void here. I hate strafing at this tier, because for some reason everybody's unpredictable. Now, oh, he counter-strafes us, which is perfect, and we're going to put a counter-strafing on top of their fighters. Hopefully we can catch them fast enough. Nope, unfortunately not able to find a counter-strafe, so this fighter's basically out of ammo, and now's the time to just pull back and resupply. Which is a little bit unfortunate, as our Langley seems to be going in with his fighters. And if the friendly Langley tries to engage at this position, it's going to be really, really difficult. Now, this one isn't going to be too good of a drop, due to the fact that the island is probably going to end up eating the two torpedoes on the side where we actually need them. And if you were looking at the minimap, you would have seen that he was actually going forwards there. And the rest in pieces torpedo bomber squadron, that's a pretty painful loss to strafing. But, and since this is a post-patch replay, that Bogue fighter squadron still has ammo. So, this is the thing about the Zuihou. It's pretty frustrating to play it, because you only have 30 planes, but you get 4 squadrons, which means you don't get many replacements. You pretty much get one set of everything, and that's bloody it. So it becomes exceptionally important to learn the patience to play this ship. Since, as we can see now, we're already out of dive bombers. What do I mean by patience? Well, it's the patience to use damage over time stack. You go in with a dive bomber, most people in this tier are silly enough or don't know better to not damage control single fires. So you damage control party trip a fire by simply bombing, say, a battleship, but preferably one that doesn't have AA. But most importantly, when you bomb something that, you know, has AA, you kill their AA, which is practical for your later attack. Now, here we go. Rest in pieces, tier 5, tier 3 even, Langley strike planes, poor things. But yes, what I would be doing now is, well, first of all, getting that ship a little bit safer. We're spotted surface, which means there has to be a destroyer coming in nearby somewhere. And also, I'll be stacking these torpedo bombers up, perfectly. It's a Wyoming, it's really difficult for it to evade. And I would have gotten that dive bomber up into the air first to get the flooding damage over time. Now, this one, the top torpedo, probably is going to get eaten by the island as well. Let's see once it drops. Let's have a look at it. And as you can see, yes, the top torpedo was in fact eaten by the island. We need to keep in mind here that the islands extend a tiny little bit. Sometimes quite a fair chunk. But usually a little bit more than the width of an island is what extends out as the hitbox for, actually hitting the island. So, well, I mean, it turns out in this case, that front torpedo, let's play it. Yeah, the front torpedo would actually have mattered here, because that was a torpedo that would most likely have hit for the third, which would have scored us the kill at this point. Anyways, let's move back to player camera. Our fighter is moving over to look at this float player fighter. Personally, I would not kill that floatplane fighter because it puts us vulnerable to getting caught out by the Bogue. And considering the fact that it is a 1-1-0 Bogue, oh, okay, it seems we're ordering the attack on it. We need to kill that within the next 3 seconds and get that fighter away. Oh, good. Okay, it seems the fighter just unlocked itself. That's interesting. But yeah, that is right. We need to run this fighter, and the Kuma doesn't have anti-aircraft, so running it there isn't going to do us any good. However, we do have a destroyer on a tail, so that needs to eventually just get removed. We are taking up our dive bombers now, but it doesn't really matter that much, because that dive bomber isn't going to be really able to, you know, set anything on fire at the moment, because we need to kill off that destroyer, which is what we need this dive bomber for. Or we can go for this almost dead Wyoming, considering our Wyoming, chances are he might just go down. Nope, he managed to evade. However, we should just dive bomb this Wyoming away. One bomb hit that causes damage is enough to kill him, and that's what we get. And we're now at least unspotted. We have a premium damage control party in this case, which is very handy, but we lost our fighters. So we only have 2 of the things left, and here's the thing about the Bogue. 28 total aircraft, 1-1-0, split them equally, 50%, you get, what, 14 fighters. So we've shot down, well, okay, make that, well, yeah, he only has 1 more, actually. No, he's got 3 more. 2 more in replacements, if he hasn't lost any other fighters anywhere else. Because he lost a first set of 6 to friendly anti-aircraft, with us only losing 1, and, well, not to forget a panic. Now, we can see this Minikaze is turning. He's trying to turn away now, and there we go, we have our number 4 squadron, the one on the left side, pretty far away this time. Ooh, unfortunately not able to get the commit. There we go, we managed to find the commit. The Minikaze is trying to turn away from this, which can be very nasty for him. If he eats one on the center line, he's gone, and that's almost what he does. He doesn't manage to eat it center line, just... But, not realizing that these torpedoes converge or do not sail parallel to each other, he managed to find one from the side as well, and that's a very valuable kill for us, because it's the destroyer that's been distracting the back force, and now that the cruiser is able to turn around for the battleships and get ass-raped by them. Now, with 2 enemy slow battleships currently trying to get away from our battleship down south, except the one down on the D10, but hey. As long as we can keep that guy somewhat reasonably alive, then he might be able to tear apart the enemy carriers, and that's what he's doing. He's going for the Bogue, the Langley, in fact. And now we see this is a Bogue torpedo bomber squadron. We just simply need to line it up and strafe it away. And nope, because the enemy's fighter squadron showed up. So now I would not keep that fighter squadron over the friendly Kernish, because as long as that Kernish is under attack by the enemy carrier, his anti-aircraft is going to be firing at the torpedo bombers. So engaging this fighter here is a mistake, in my opinion, because that torpedo bomber is going to be the focus of anti-aircraft as long as it is within range, which means that our fighter is going to be at a disadvantage. Instead, and there we go, we can see we got it completely devastated. Instead, simply running the fighter back to our friendly ship and seeing if he's paying attention would be the best move to make, and trying to isolate the enemy fighter in a position where we can kill it off later on alone, on our terms, will be beneficial. And this is something, as a Japanese carrier, you just have to learn. It's the patience to protect your own fighters. Now, this is a pretty interesting drop, actually. It's just delayed enough to prevent us from hitting our own Kaiser, and it's perfect enough to knock out the Myogi without putting any risk to our own Kaiser. Now, without our fighters, we won't be able to effectively deal anything about this enemy fighter squadron, really only hoping that it's stupid enough to come over our own ship so we can kill them off with our anti-aircraft. And speaking of anti-aircraft, there it goes. And here, again, I would have a little bit more patience, wait for the dive bombers to arrive. And the enemy's torpedo fighter squadron even is running away. Unfortunately, we only managed to pick one of them up with our dual purpose. And with the Langley having been out of fighters for quite a while, he threw his last set at the enemy Langley fighters. This could be an interesting thing, especially if the enemy just locks his torpedo bomber squadron. There's a good chance we might lose it. So now we're sending our torpedo bomber and the dive bomber set. It seems we're sending it southwest towards maybe to support our Langley. But running this torpedo bomber squadron like this is just going to get it caught. Anyways, we're now just simply ordering it to return home, but you know, this plane is barely not fast enough, so the more you make it turn, the more vulnerable you are to getting it caught. And there we go, it got caught. So chances are, we're going to lose that squadron, which means we're basically out of replacements, unless the enemy Bogue is out of ammunition. However, we do see a basically one-shottable enemy Kaiser with our torpedo bombers, so hopefully we can pick that one up with a squadron. Again, which leaves our dive bomber there not doing much. So if we're going to use that dive bomber, we simply need to wait for our Langley to try to make an attack against the other battleship up there. And we can see the Kaiser now turning in towards our torpedo bombers. We make a much better drop with this one. We readjust the first one. And we pretty much just need 2 hits center line. And our dive bomber now sitting on top of the Kernish. Oh, 2 hits didn't kill. One of them must have hit the bow. And it seems our Langley's interested. However, our number 5 squadron, if we select it here, is just simply circling over the enemy Kernish and taking losses to anti-aircraft. And anti-aircraft trying to pick off that enemy fighter squadron. We did manage to lose 2 planes, which means one of our squadrons is now in a damaged state, and we don't really have the ability to attack the enemy Bogue with that. And with the enemy's fighter buffs, well, the US fighter buff in ammunition, that enemy fighter does have a lot of ammunition. So what I would be doing now is just trying to get my ship closer towards the fighter squadron, which we now are. And there we go. Our rear gunners actually managed to pick up the kill. However, this still alive Kaiser is going to be annoying because it means we have to plug another bomb on it. And our Langley just went down. Now, we do have a major points advantage. We have 2 captures. And we have 1 low HP enemy ship, the Kaiser, which we can knock out reasonably easily. And the other remaining battleship is so far away, it's not even gonna matter. Now, without our fighter squadrons, we're unable to properly defend ourselves. If the enemy carrier wants to go for us and kill us, he pretty much will. So at this point, I will be ensuring that my torpedo bombers can kill the enemy carrier, the enemy battleship, in the event that he does decide to go for us. It seems he is interested in sending 1 dive bomber squadron to us. This is the Langley's bomber squadron. And there's the Bogue. So, simply, what we need to do is sail up to the Bogue and secondary it to death, because our secondaries are much superior. Attacking the Bogue in this position is not suggested because we're going to take massive losses to anti-aircraft, and I would simply try to finish off that enemy battleship to increase our points lead. At least if we are going to, however, attack a Bogue, I would ensure we do it with both squadrons simultaneously and do not faff around trying to get 3 hits. It is much more important to get the planes to attack early enough because we simply do not have the time. We're going to suffer way too many losses to the anti-aircraft. However, it seems we managed to make a good drop. The torpedo bomber squadron that first attacked managed to get it flooding, and now we just need 2 hits center line to score the kill. Unable to find it at the moment. 3,000 health left. We need this dive bomber to get in and get a fire on us. Hopefully, anti-aircraft isn't going to kill it, and the bomb drops just too far. And we have 1 more torpedo bomber squadron, lost the dive bomber, lost the torpedo bomber squadron, no fighters left. We need to kill that low HP battleship. The Bogue might get into B and capture it, but that's not too major of a problem at the moment. We need to score a kill. And we also need to ensure we get our ship somewhere safe. Now, it doesn't seem like orders are showing too well on the minimap, so at least for the carrier. And there we go, torpedo bombers coming in. They seem much more interested in going for the Congo at the moment, actually. And the reason I say you get rid of the battleship first is because the battleship has much less anti-aircraft. So you can kill the battleship and then go back and kill the Bogue. Because now, if you lose all 3 of these torpedo bombers to the enemy's Bogue, you won't have the aircraft to kill the enemy battleship. If you kill that enemy battleship, your secondaries can tear apart a Bogue. Now here we go, 1 plane left, the friendly Congo goes down, very bad situation for us, at least the plane manages to drop, hopefully it's not going to die. We pick up the Bogue kill before it kills our last plane, so we do have that last plane. Let's check on the health of this Kaiser. We need to snipe this Kaiser, pretty much. Thankfully, the enemy battleships aren't actually finding too devastating smashing hits on us yet, just losing overpen damage, which is perfectly fine. And with the Langley pretty much deplaned, we just need to get behind the island, and if the Langley comes chasing after us, we can torpedo. Well, we can secondary that. It doesn't have that great anti-aircraft either, so the chances of us losing this last torpedo bomber isn't that great. But we need to get it up into the air and sink that enemy Kaiser before anything happens to us. Kill off him, get the points, and then start secondarying the Langley. The Langley is a very slow ship. It does not have the ability to evade us or try to go for the ram. But going for the Langley is also viable at this point, I guess, especially to avoid anti-aircraft over here. We make a good drop on the Langley here with our torpedo bomber, pulling it back to supply. There's very little time left on the game, as you can see, 45 seconds. Going a high caliber and Confederate with this bomber drop. And that Langley is soon going to be in our secondary range. We just need to survive for another 34 more seconds. The enemy are... I don't think... Let's check. Nope. They're not in a position to catch up for us, and our secondaries are now opening up on this Langley. We can be traveling at basically 3/4 speed at this position to ensure that the Langley is going to be staying inside secondary range, and we're also going to be angled against this, so that if they do manage to get a salvo off right about now over the island, the chances of them killing us isn't going to be too high. However, the 0 seconds marker hits. The torpedo is in the water, but unfortunately it's never going to reach due to the end of the game. Having a look at the post-battle results screens, 117,000 damage, 256, 19 torpedo hits, with the last few having been done without fighters. The Bogue threw away the remaining fighters of the enemy's team to our anti-aircraft, which is very nice to have. We pick up 5 dive bomber hits and 5 fires. Bloody nice RNG on that. However, I didn't really feel like the fire was being used effectively, and this is something that, well, okay, we can't really complain about 117,000 damage solo warrior high caliber game in a Zuihou against, well, Bogue and Langley. That is certainly a very, very well played game there. But if you really want to be nitpicking here, having used those dive bombers against the enemy battleships to set the fires, get the damage control parties. You saw against the enemy Bogue in the beginning of the game, he damage control partied the 2 fires, whether knowingly that there were no bombers available to attack him because our torpedo bombers were empty or not. But that, if you didn't know, and he damage control partied the 2 fires, we can come in with a flooding, which will stick. The alpha is very strong from these 4 torpedo bombers per squadron, 2 squadrons which we are equipped with, and a Myogi isn't that hard to hit 3 on, especially considering our manual torpedo bomber drops, except for not realizing that the enemy cruiser at B was in fact not reversing but going forwards. We do have this amazing dropping capability to knock down a lot of alpha, and at this tier torpedo voltages aren't that strong, and also the flooding reduction isn't that great. So what that means is that we can get the flooding on them, and if people are not using premium damage control partied, that's a full duration flooding, which slows down the ship, causes massive damage, and gives you, well, a lot of bloody damage. But the 2 most important things are, it slows the enemy ship down, and the flooding damage over time stack is more powerful than the fire damage over time stack. Anyways, moving on, we did manage to pick up 5 kills, unfortunately not able to pick up a 6th, not like it would matter, we already got our Kraken unleashed. Having a look at the team scores, we are actually not on top. The Clemson is on top of the scoreboard, probably getting some captures, not so sure how much damage he has done. The friendly Kurdish picking up 14 planes. That thing's anti-aircraft is certainly not bad. Langley managing to get 7, definitely helping us out here a little bit. The rest of the team getting up dribs and drabs, mostly the ones that do actually have some anti-aircraft. The enemy Bogue, 28 aircraft shot down. Don't forget that some of that was to friendly anti-aircraft. Again, equally, just like some of ours was to friendly anti-aircraft. The enemy Kurdish manages to pick up 19 as well. That's a lot of planes considering it's only a tier 5 battleship. And the enemy Langley manages to get 11, despite, well, having stock planes, I believe. Moving on, the detailed report, we can see enemy Bogue, we did 27,000 damage to it, but my question is, was that 27,263 damage, and eventually the kill on it, worth the loss of the aircraft, or should we have killed off some of the enemy battleships before going for this very slow Bogue? The Evoc Alpha, we apparently only actually hit for 1,886. I was hoping for a little bit more, but he had smoked himself up and probably took a little bit of damage elsewhere. 6,000 damage on the Minikaze. He ate 2 torpedoes, probably not realizing that they converge. Wyoming, 20,000. Myogi, 22,000. Kaiser, 27,000. That's some pretty good damage farm off tier 4 battleships here. And, well, credits and XP, it doesn't really matter too much. I'm not that interested in it because, well, if you're trying to farm credits or experience with a Zuihou, you're either, well, only have a Zuihou or you're bloody masochist, or probably both. So, let's summarize our game. In the beginning, we, in my opinion, played somewhat strongly against the enemy fighters, dragging them towards friendly anti-aircraft, managing to take down the first squadron with only 1 plane lost, 6 enemies taken down. Of course, we didn't do most of the killing, it was friendly anti-aircraft supporting us. However, against the second fighter squadron, we were trying to strafe them. And, well, I mean, hindsight 2020, strafing definitely did not pay off here. I would simply see that once he's unlocked himself, and it seems that fighters like unlocking themselves post this patch, I don't know, it might be a bug, or fighters are just free to fly off and do their own thing, or it's something hidden in the patch notes that I didn't catch. I mean, I don't tend to read the patch notes on release that much, I just, memorize the super test ones. But, that's something that I think people, well, I guess I know at least I will be keeping an eye on. However, once he started making the second strafe, we were just too late to be able to make a proper counter strafe on him, so he managed to pull his fighter away. I would simply just auto-attack on top of him, lock him down, and get the panic attack against him, which we did have against him on the first fighter squadron, which meant that the enemy's DPS in return to us was drastically reduced. So that was a pretty unfortunate misplay, which cost us the ability to have fighters in the late game and the ability to pick off some of the enemy's fighters. Beyond that, friendly anti-aircraft, especially when you see it doesn't seem to be focused because of the traces going all over the place, and, the traces going for the first available target, and then later on swapping, instead of, all of it just going for the torpedo bombers which are coming in. Plus, at this day, I don't really expect people to focus anti-aircraft, and if people are going to focus anti-aircraft, unless they're in your division, chances are they are going to be focusing on the strike planes anyways. So, what else do we have? Well, that fighter was basically lost there. Three enemy fighters managed to pick up the 2 of ours without us being able to pick up any of theirs, which is kind of annoying because that was the last set of fighters we had. In my opinion, simply running them towards our own ship would have been a safer bet here. There was nothing we can really do to prevent the enemy's torpedo bombers from dropping. Trying to head-on strafe them might kill 1 or 2, but it guarantees the loss of our fighter, something that is definitely going to be a much worse trade for us, because the Bogue still probably had a good chunk of replacements, and he didn't have, he had a clue how to play, let's put it like that. So, with that recap of the game, the only, I don't know whether to call it strategic or tactical, but you should definitely be trying to use your dive bombers more as a utility to set stuff on fire, at least in the Zuihou specifically. Dive bomb someone, set it on fire, wait for the damage control party, and then go in with 2 torpedo bombers, get the kill with it. If you want to be trying to make cross drops against enemies, you need to ensure that your second bomber squadron, well, you don't need to ensure, but I highly suggest you have your second squadron further away, ready to make a drop. And also, try to, practice much more on your torpedo bomber squadron's placements and the angle at which they are able to actually make a committing drop. There were quite a few failed drops. I mean, this is something that all carrier players need to learn. The user fucking interface. And, well, you're a pretty regular viewer of my stream, you know how often I fail my drops like this, and you know how much I bitch and whine about this slow wargaming unresponsive interface. I thought, wait, no, there's user interface, right? Oh, wait. But yes, that's really all my comments. This is a very well played game. There weren't that many mistakes. Any of the mistakes I'm picking up here are pretty much all nitpicking. But nitpicking is realistically what you need to keep in mind. Actually, one more thing: your carrier movement. Of course, I don't actually see your. Well, I don't seem to see your carrier movement orders. And a very annoying thing is you don't see the rudder shifts in a replay, so I can't exactly see how you're trying to make a move. However, getting closer to the middle in the early game, in my opinion, wasn't that great. I would have simply, once we see that the northeastern flank is reasonably clear, tried to move myself behind the big island behind the capture area there, and then continue there on southwards. I am not a major fan of stationary sitting in a carrier, but at this tier, with most enemy aircraft being reasonably slow, and the island covering from the enemy side, if an enemy attempts a snipe, there is a chance that we can get our ship moving again. And the Zuihou is a pretty immaneuverable ship with reasonably poor anti-air... Well, not poor, it's got really strong dual purpose. In fact, if you upgrade those dual purpose guns with focus anti-aircraft at this tier, you get a ludicrous amount of anti-aircraft. And, well, I don't really feel that AS is necessary, so you could potentially... Well, AS is not necessary, that's bullshit. 5 versus 6. If you have AS, you have 5 fighters versus 6 of the Bogues. However, most Bogues are going to be fighter setup at this tier for some awkward reason, because Wargaming cannot into proper balancing, and the Bogue is just stupid right now. I mean, stupid as in stupidly useless, because it doesn't really teach you much, and, well, 110. Isn't that a downgrade to the Langley's 111? Well, no, you get more fighters, but that's not something the new player is likely to be aware of. That is the replacement distribution mechanic, which means you're not really teaching a new player anything with a Bogue. You give them a 110 setup compared to the Langley's 111 setup, and they're going to be thinking, well, I want more fighters or I want more strikes, so they're going to upgrade to the useless strike or the useless fighter setup. It is only either someone who is completely stock and therefore doesn't have those upgrades, or someone who actually knows what they're doing or has half a clue of how the replacement system works and wants a balanced setup that will go 110. Anyways, I'm not going to go too much into the ramblings of carrier balance. I will wrap up this replay analysis here. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you picked something up out of it. And thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in the next one.